Hello again and welcome back to another TryHard Diablo 3 Legendary Guide. Today's class will be the Wizard. We'll be going over all the mainstream legendaries you want to use on your Wizard and exactly why you want to use them and which stats they're going to bring to the table and just general costs on the items. Now if you look on the bottom of the screen, there's going to be an interactive menu, so you don't have to watch the whole 30-minute video. You can just click on the legendary you just want to look at. So that's there for you, so just have a look at that. If there's any you want to see, just click away. But let's get started. Now, as always, we'll start with the Vile Ward. Now, the Vile Ward's a bit of a tricky one nowadays, mainly because of the new crafting shoulders that have come out, but they're still pretty good starter shoulders. So if you're, if you've been playing your Wizard kind of freshly, then they're definitely good to go for because you can get them really cheap and they're very good for the cost you spend. So, if you have to search intelligence first of all because they don't always have intelligence on them. But if you search over 150, you can get a really good pair for under, 100k, and that's going to be a good starter item, and it's going to give you, really good DPS. But until you can start crafting, I'd say the crafted items have a bit more potential in terms of shoulder slot. But that's a bit for more people who have a bit more gold, because crafting shoulders can add up to cost quite a bit over, like 50 to 100 crafts. So maybe look at getting a Vile Ward before you start crafting. But I would definitely recommend crafting your shoulder slots, mainly because you can get up to over 300 intelligence on your shoulders, plus, vitality and things like that. But if you look at a decent pair of an intelligence plus vitality ones, which I have here, those are going to sell for at least 20 million gold. If you invest that into crafting, you'll end up with a much better pair than this. But yeah, Vile Ward's definitely a good starter shoulder, and it's definitely worth looking into. Now, the Lucuni Prowlers have dropped quite a bit in price lately. I'm not too sure why. It might be because some of the crafted bracers are pretty good, but just overall, you can get a good pair of Lucunis with crit chance on there and intelligence for very low cost. I mean, 1.75 is really cheap for actual shoulders. So, I mean, if you look at those, that's, you got attack speed, intelligence, critical hit chance, and movement speed on there as well. So if you're not using your in his legs, which I'm pretty sure lots of wizards aren't, then this is really good for capping your movement speed. So I definitely look into a pair of these, and then obviously once you start adding things on like vitality and all resist, the price skyrockets by quite a bit. It goes up by about 10 times the amount. When you add on vitality, it doesn't add on as much, but the vitality values aren't normally too high. Actually saying that 78 isn't too bad, it's kind of reasonable, but with that you're gonna get really low intelligence. But yeah, it's definitely worth looking into these because they are amazing boost for your DPS, and if you're playing a CM wizard, the attack speed on them is, I don't want to say it's crucial, but obviously for CM wizards it's absolutely fantastic, so definitely look at these. And moving on to the Witching Hour. Now, the Witching Hour, since I started making these guides, it used to be about 16 million on base. It's gone down to 7 million now. So the cost has gone down by, shitloads. It's almost halved in price since the last few months, mainly because obviously more people are playing, more items are dropping, etc. So this is an excellent legendary. Absolutely, I'd say it's almost essential in terms of end game DPS, like, when you're doing like Monster Power 7 and 8 and stuff, especially if you're playing CM because it has an attack speed on there. But anyways, it always has intelligence, it always has attack speed, and it always has critical hit damage. And the attack speed ranges from 8 to 9, and the critical hit damage ranges from 30 to 50. So keep that in mind while actually buying your Witching Hour, because you can actually get kind of ripped off if you don't watch the critical hit damage and the attack speed on there, mainly because the price does vary based on those as well. So the great thing about the Witching Hour compared to other classes is that it always has intelligence on it. So what that means is the price on the intelligence ones is a lot lower than it would be for, say, a strength one to have that amount of stat. So like if you had a strength one at 90 and intelligence one at 90, the intelligence one's always going to be cheaper. So that's really, really good for, good news for us as wizards. Now, if you want to increase the cost on this, obviously you're going to have to add things like vitality and all resist, and that's going to bring up the cost by quite a bit. But as you can see, even with vitality and all resist, it only goes up by about 3 times the amount in cost. So it is pretty viable to get all of your stats on this belt at the same time. And I definitely recommend having this as a long-term goal in your set, because it is absolutely crucial in terms of DPS, well, maintaining a really high DPS at least. Okay, so much like the Witching Hour, Mempo of Twilight is going to be one of those kind of long-term endgame. When I say endgame, I mean like wanting to farm higher monster powers efficiently. Obviously, we know there's no endgame, but anyways, this is one of your kind of like your focuses on your character to get eventually. Now, the Mempo of Twilight, as we all know, I'm sure everyone knows of this legendary by now. It always has all resist, attack speed, life percentage, and a socket. So base stats, absolutely fantastic. You can't really go wrong. Now, you have to add intelligence on there on its own. Now, the obviously deciding factor on this item is going to be the critical hit chance. Now, this will bring up the cost by a ridiculous amount. We're looking at 100 plus million. So this will be, like I said, your kind of overall aim in a Helm, because it does provide the most DPS a Helm can provide. And then, obviously, based on the critical hit chance, the item will go up, by quite a bit. So as you can see, it just keeps going up and up as you get closer to the perfect 6%. So, if you're in the kind of medium range, top end range gear, you can pick up a good one for, I say a good one, a 3% crit one for 180k DPS. But you have to remember that when your gear's that good, that, extra percent crit is going to affect your DPS by that much more, because your critical hit damage will be really, really high by then. But anyways, that's a long-term goal. Now let's talk about it without the critical hit chance. It's still a good Helm, but the attack speed generally won't give you as much DPS as critical hit chance will. So, you can pick up the Talrash's Helm, which we'll talk about later, which always has 5 to 6% crit, and you can get high intelligence on there, which will end up better DPS than the Mempo Twilight, if Mempo Twilight doesn't have a critical hit damage on there, or critical hit chance. So if Mempo doesn't have a critical hit chance, I don't want to say it's not worth going for, but you're going to find a better Helm with better DPS pretty much. So it's up to you guys if you want to buy it or not. So, moving on to the Zunimos' Trial. Now, this item is absolutely fantastic. Reason being is it has all the base stats you want on there already, except for all resist, but that's okay. So it has intelligence, vitality, movement speed, which is, exactly what you want on boots, and you can add all resist on there as well. And it has some elemental damage as well, which is absolutely fantastic. So, since the base stats are always there, intelligence, vitality, even the worst Zunimos' Trial is still going to be reasonable in stats. So as you can see, even the cheapest one is only 450k. Now, obviously, the deciding factor will be the vitality and intelligence going up, and as well if you add all resist. So the vitality can go pretty high. You can get over 140, things like that on there. So, if you want a reasonable pair with, 130 int, over 140 vitality, you can look at spending 2 million gold, and then if you go a million gold higher, you can get 167 intelligence, which is pretty damn good, I'd say. And actually might be worth. Yeah, so as you can see, the stats on there are just fantastic. Obviously, adding on all resist is going to skyrocket the price. So, it's up to you what you want to do with it. But, as you can see, that's really good. Intelligence, vitality, all resist, movement speed, elemental damage. Absolutely fantastic. I'm wondering if you can get pickup radius on this. I'm a big fan of pickup radius in the game. You can, but that's going to make the price ridiculous as well. But, awesome boots, really good base stats. Definitely recommend looking into these over most yellow boots. And it's Zunimos' Trail, not Zunimos' Trial. So mind my awesome reading skills. Alright, so the Depth Diggers are pretty good legendary. I'd say they're a bit debatable. Now, the reason I like these is because if you're not actually Paragon level capped, you're going to want to hit your 300 Magic Find cap, obviously, to get the most legendaries per run and just the most yellows and things like that. So I definitely recommend going for these. Reason being is, now the base stats, they don't always have intelligence and they don't always have 2 sockets. So you want to search for intelligence and 2 sockets on these to get the most out of the item. Now, the good thing is they always have insanely high all resist on there, as well as another resist or something. And then they have magic and gold find as well. So that's kind of the key part of these. And, lots of endgame wizards do use these because of the overall DPS you can get off of them. Now, you can get really high intelligence, high all resist and magic find on there for not even 2 million gold. So I definitely recommend going for these when you're not magic find capped, because they're going to be better than most yellows, and just they're overall really, really good. Now, the main deciding factors on these are going to be, adding on vitality on there. Once you start adding on vitality, the item skyrockets. As you can see, it went over, 10 times the amount when you added on vitality. But you do see lots of endgame wizards using these because the overall intelligence you can get, 250 intelligence plus 2 sockets. That's a potential 350 plus item. Now, that's really, really good. But again, it's for kind of if you want those stats, you need kind of top-end gold and things like that. But if you're starting off and you need to hit your Magic Find cap, which I definitely recommend doing, is, go for those because they're really, really good. Alright, so the Inna's Temperance is used by most endgame wizards. Reason being is the potential on the DPS is a lot higher than most leggings. I mean, even a really, really good pair of Depth Diggers, I think this is probably going to top the... Maybe it'll probably tie the damage in terms of Depth Diggers can have, 350 plus intelligence, but these have attack speed on them. So when you're playing, a CM wizard, they have attack speed and critical hit chance on them, which no other legs do. So the potential of, having these age your spec It's just really, really good. So the problem is with these is you don't base have intelligence on there. It always has dexterity because obviously they're monk legs. So you have to search for the intelligence yourself. And it does add a decent amount onto the price, and the intelligence values are quite low generally. But, you know, it doesn't really matter. The attack speed and critical hit chance are on there anyways. So the main deciding factor will be the intelligence getting higher and higher, you know, to the point of 100, which is the top end. And, yeah, I mean, I might bid on those in 42 minutes. Anyways, yeah, so intelligence, 100's the top. And then I'm pretty sure you can add on one extra stat on there. You can't, it doesn't look like. Maybe with the not as no, you can't. So it's just intelligence on there, but you know, all the end game wizards are using these in terms of adding on DPS, and they have movement speed as well. So if you can't afford a good pair of Lacunis, then you can add on your, you know, you can cap your movement speed with those as well. So they definitely recommend looking into these as like an end game goal as well, because the overall DPS will be absolutely fantastic. Alright, so one of my favorite things about the wizard class is you actually have a bit of a kind of an option or choice in what you want to use in terms of your main hand and offhand. There's quite a few combinations you can use. Chantodo's Will is, or the set in general, is really good. It's a main hand and offhand set, and the set bonus is 130 intelligence and reduces damage from elites by 7%. So it's a really good set bonus, and the items themselves are fantastic. Now, why Chantodo's Will is so good is it always has intelligence, the DPS has good potential, critical hits give you arcane power, and then it has increases attacks per second. So as you can see, I mean, the attack speed on this item is 1.64. Now that's really fast, and if you're playing CM, that is really, really good. So the deciding factors on this, as usual, since this can only have one random modifier on it, as you can see, like the random modifier on that one is 10% attack speed, the one on that one is increased damage, and so on. Or no, the one on that one is I think it's an extra bonus roll on. Oh, I see. No, it's minimum damage 32. So yeah, it only gets one random stat anyways. So what this means is it can either have, like, you know, critical hit damage on there, but it can't have critical hit damage and a socket, which is it seems a bit crap that it can't have both, but it doesn't really matter. You generally want to go for just your socket on there, because it has a potential of 110% critical hit damage, with the gem included. Now, you can get a medium range one for about 15 million. And that's, you know, almost a K DPS with your socket. I'd say that's a really, really good, in terms of DPS, that's definitely fantastic to go for. Now, what you have to keep in mind, if you're not using 100% critical hit gem, and you're using like a 70 to maybe 90, always look at the critical hit damage instead, because you could end up with a, like, as you can see, so if you're using a 80% critical hit damage gem, that one is a lot cheaper than the one before because it doesn't have an open socket, so people value it as a lot lower. But yeah, so if you're not using 100% critical hit damage gem, always search for critical hit damage over maybe 70% before buying the item, because you could end up with a bargain of maybe half the price with equal DPS and just as much critical hit damage as you're going to get anyways, because you're not using the perfect gem. But yeah, we'll talk about the offhand now anyways. Alright, so a lot like the Talrasha's Unwavering Gaze, or whatever it's called, this is an item level 63 item again, so potentially the average damage can be crazy once again. You know, it has, yeah, 300 plus. So that's fantastic. Now, the base stats on this are so good. It's got, you know, potential average high damage. It has intelligence, attack speed, and critical hit chance as well. So the base stats are really good. Attack speed, not on an offhand, is, you know, with Chantodo's Will, or the main, you know, the main hand, your attack speed's going to be insane. So if you're playing CM, good game. I mean, your attacks per second are going to be absolutely through the roof, especially with items, you know, like Witching Hour and your Relentless Pursuit and things like that. It's going to be really, really high. So anyway, so what you want to search for on that, it doesn't have base arcane power on crit, which kind of sucks. So what that means is that's going to add a lot of value onto the item. So as you can see, if you add that on, it's 50 million. Without it, it's 2 million. So it's really up to you and your playstyle and your build whether you want to use this or not. But I definitely recommend looking into this combo because it is very, very good. But if you add on arcane power on crit, which is obviously crucial for, well, you can make up for it on other items, but it is crucial for CM. It's going to increase the value of the item by quite a bit. Now, it has an increased bonus modifier on one of your spells as well. So, I mean, it's up to you what you're using. But if you're playing CM or Archon, you're not really going to be using too many of these skills anyways, which kind of sucks. But yeah, I definitely recommend looking into this because even base stats on that, 250 plus average damage. It's only 6 million gold, and it's got your attack speed, critical hit chance on there, etc. So definitely look into this set, guys. It's absolutely fantastic. But we'll talk about the other kind of what am I trying to say? We're going to talk about the other kind of set of weapons we can use now. So let's get started with that. Alright, so the other option in your main hand will be the Echoing Fury. We all know what this is by now, because it's probably the most mainstream weapon in the game. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to search for intelligence on this, because intelligence is a huge DPS modifier. It's a lot higher than you'd actually expect. So if you had 150 intelligence on there, that's a really high amount of DPS. Generally, that's what I search for on my item, but it's up to you. Now, again, just like the Chantodos will, when you're searching for a socket compared to critical hit damage, always keep your gem in mind. So if you don't have 100% gem, always search for critical hit damage, 70 plus instead of a socket, and you might end up with an item that's really good. But the good thing about Echoing Fury is it can have everything on it anyways, but obviously the price is going to be absolutely insane. So you can have critical hit damage and a socket on there. But as you can see, costs of the item are really, really expensive. 15 million compared to the Chantodos will get you the exact same amount of DPS, which is around the 950 ballpark. And, but the item itself, it has really, really high attacks per second. It doesn't get as high as the Chantodos will in terms of attack speed, but you can have critical hit damage and a socket in there, which is really nice. I really don't like the chance to fear on hit. I don't know what everyone else thinks about this, but even in terms of survival, it doesn't help you survive, because if you're to the point where you need to fear enemies to survive, you should probably lower the monster power anyways, because you shouldn't be getting your ass kicked that hard. But yeah, the fear on hit is a big pain in the ass, but if you're spamming Frost Nova anyways with CM, that's not a huge deal. If you're playing Archon, eventually enemies will just run around like crazy, which is a big, it just bugs me a lot. Anyways, the nice thing about Echoing Fury as well is you can get lifesteal on there. So lifesteal in terms of higher end DPS is really, really good, because it just keeps you alive really well. So as you can see, that's a fantastic item. It has lifesteal, it has critical hit damage, and it has really, really high attack speed, intelligence, and we're looking at 10 million gold for over 1,000 DPS. So it's definitely worth looking into. I think if you had a socket on there, you're not going to get nearly as high. The DPS goes down by 100. So like I was saying before, it's always good to check between the socket and the critical hit chance on there as a replacement, because you can end up with a higher bargain. Like, let's say you have 100% critical hit chance in there. The DPS on the one with higher DPS and just 45% critical hit damage in there is probably going to be higher on that one. So always look into that before you buy the item, because you can save yourself loads of money, and you can end up with more DPS on the ones without sockets once in a while. Okay, so moving on to the Triumvirates. This is a really, really good offhand in terms of actual DPS, and if you're playing Archon, it's really, really nice. Now, it adds on, the average damage isn't potentially as high as the other level 63 offhands I was showing you before, but it's still pretty high. You can get over, I think it's around 250 on there. Yeah, 250 plus, which is a really, really good amount. So that's the main deciding factor on the item, is always the average damage. Now, on this, you can add intelligence. Well, intelligence is always on there, so the higher the better. And there's one extra stat, so if you want to play with Arcane Power on crit, or just generally get your vitality higher, which is generally what people do with this, is they go for more vitality. And I'm pretty sure they're playing Archon with it, or maybe they just don't need the extra Arcane Power on crit. But it doesn't always have Arcane Power on crit, so you can search that as the other modifier as well. But you can't have vitality and that at the same time. So either way, you can get a really good one, 250 plus average damage, and without vitality on there. Sorry. And the cost it's reasonable, and the actual overall quality of the item is just absolutely amazing in terms of DPS. So if you're going around probably about 200, 50k, that's nothing. Really, really good starter, and really, really good end game kind of goal to go for this. The elemental damage that's added on there is potentially up to 18%, 6% in each field. So it's really, really good. And as you can see, if you started off with that item right there, you're looking at 140 vitality plus. I think that might be mispriced. Yeah, you can sell that out for a bit more. But anyways, yeah, so it's about 500k for 140 plus. So really, really good. Definitely recommend going for this, and it's overall going to add a lot on your DPS. Rightio, so starting with the Resto Set. Now, the set bonuses are reasonably good. You get a bit of elemental damage as you get, the set bonus higher and higher. And then the 4 pieces increase your arcane power generation by 2 per second, which is a pretty good amount, but going for the 4 set generally isn't recommended, mainly because you can get better combinations of items in those slots. Let's just say that. But if you're starting off your wizard, You know, fresh, absolutely fresh. Going for the 4 set's not a terrible idea. Anyway, so we'll start off with the Helm, which is the Guise of Wisdom. Now, this one's really good because the base stats on it are really good. You always get intelligence, you always get life percent, and you always get critical hit chance and an open socket. So it has the stats on there that you always want. Now, the deciding factor on this item will be the intelligence, and then obviously if you add on all resist or vitality, the item is going to get a lot more expensive depending on what you do. I'm not sure if you can get them both at once. You can. So, you know, if you're looking at the ideal item, which is intelligence, vitality, all resist, and, you know, the other stats, the minimum is only 800k. So that's really, really good. Now, that one, you know, look, 170 intelligence, vitality, all resist, life percentage, and critical hit chance for 2.5 million gold. So it is a really good. I definitely recommend going for this Helm over, you know, a Mempo without critical hit chance on it, because the critical hit chance generally is going to increase your DPS depending on your gear setup, but generally it's going to increase your DPS by a lot more than just attack speed, because you should have high critical hit damage and things like that. So this is definitely a recommended item if you don't have your Mempo sorted, or you're in Dariel's Visage. It's, you know, it's completely up to you. Now, the Talrash's Brace, which is a belt, is a reasonable legendary. I'd probably recommend maybe going for it if you don't have a Witching Hour, if you can't afford a Witching Hour, mainly because it has a bit of critical hit chance on there, and it has a bit of elite damage as well. So overall, it's a reasonable belt, but the Witching Hour is going to be obviously, you know, 10 times better than this could ever be. But, you know, considering the cost of this item, I'd say it's okay to go for if you're starting off your wizard or if your gear is not that great. Now, you have to search for higher intelligence on there because it can get really, really low intelligence, as you can see, 90. So, you know, maybe search for some intelligence, and you can add an all resistant vitality on there as you please. And that'll bring up the price by quite a bit. But, you know, those are the stats you want on any character, vitality and all resist. So you can add them on there, which is really nice. And you can get life percentage and pickup radius on there as well as extra bonuses. So I definitely recommend having a look at this if you're maybe using a yellow belt. But if you can afford a Witching Hour, I'd definitely pick one over this. Alright guys, so the Unwavering Glare is probably one of my favorite legendary items for Wizard. Well, not for the Wizard, but part of the set at least. Now, reason being is the item level on the offhand is level 63. Now, most offhands for most classes are item level 62. And what this means is the average damage potential on the 63 item is a lot higher than the 62 item. A difference between, let's say, 20 average damage from 250 to 270 is a noticeable difference in your DPS. So anyways, that's why this has such good potential in terms of adding straight up damage to your character and increasing your DPS. Now the base stats, you know, potentially high average damage, intelligence, critical hit chance, critical hits increase arcane power, and then it has a bonus modifier plus increases, you know, the duration of one of your spells or damage or whatever spell you're using, you can increase pretty much. Now, the deciding factors in this item are going to be the average damage mainly. So, you know, if you want 250, which I'd say is a fair amount in terms of actually adding DPS, it's only 400k, and then as you get higher, it'll obviously increase 300, you know, but that's really high damage, 122 to 470, or 124 to 478 damage on your item. That's really, really good. So when searching for this, I'd probably recommend going for about 250 plus, and then searching for a higher amount of intelligence, because intelligence obviously has a huge impact on your DPS. So if you can get 200 plus, maybe 250 intelligence on there, you know, your DPS is going to be crazy. So that's definitely recommend looking into this one. There are other offhands, which we've spoken about, but yeah. Now here's the one thing I wanted to ask you guys. When I compare this offhand to my shield, or to my Dead Man's Legacy, it's showing as a shield. So does this mean my original item was like duped or something? Or is that just some weird bug? Because my other Dead Man's Legacy, it doesn't show as a shield, it shows as a Dead Man's Legacy. So that's a question. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of that, because it's really bugging me. So moving on to Talrash's Allegiance. Now, this is a bit of a weird one because the deciding factor on this is adding on critical hit chance, and as well as that, adding on average damage. So the problem is when you add on those stats, the price goes insane. So this is, again, for like kind of top-end geared players. Now, when you add on average damage as well, you know, it's getting pretty pricey. So it's a bit of a funny one. I mean, like, you know, it's a bit out of most people's range, just like Mempo and, you know, a really good Witching Hour. It's just really, really expensive to get a good top-end one. So without the critical hit chance, this item is a bit, I don't want to say useless, but almost useless, because if you don't have critical hit chance on there, you're missing out on a potential, 8 to 10% critical hit chance you could have on another item. Now, why is this so good? It adds elemental damage, it adds to your set bonus, and then it has really, really, really high intelligence base. We're looking at almost 250 plus on every single one, and then it has vitality on there as well. So potentially this item has just, unbelievable just potential. Like, you can get really, really high vitality on there, you can get really, really high intelligence, and then you can have critical hit chance and your critical hit damage as well as average damage. So it is a good item, but again, I'd probably recommend looking around for maybe a yellow neck, crafting a neck, or something like that in the meantime until you can afford one with critical hit chance on there. And then even when you add critical hit chance on there, the ones with, around 8%, which is what you really want on a neck, anything lower than 8% I normally don't go for. It's getting pretty pricey, so again, worth saving up towards as a kind of an end game goal. But for now, I'd probably recommend crafting a neck or just looking around for a better yellow neck because you can get a yellow neck with those stats, and it'll actually cost you a lot less than that. Probably roughly that, but yeah, it's again end game neck. So definitely consider that before buying one that doesn't have critical hit chance on there, because it's not really worth it. And moving on to probably the best item in the set, in my opinion. Well, the neck is probably, the best in terms of DPS. But anyways, the Tal Rush's Relentless Pursuit, which is a chess piece, is awesome. It has intelligence, vitality, attack speed, and then it regenerates life per second as well, which is always nice if you're playing CM. And it has 3 sockets as well. So the base stats, even the worst chess piece you can get available, is good. And it's only 250k. Now, this has gone down about 4 times the amount in 2 months now. It used to be 1 million for the lowest one. Now it's only 250k. So I definitely recommend going for this no matter who you are. Now, the deciding factors will obviously be the intelligence and the vitality, and then if you add on all resist as well, you can add on other stats like pickup radius and things like that as you please. So, the higher intelligence you get, the more expensive the item's going to get, and then the higher vitality you get as well, the more expensive it's going to get. Now, you can add on things like, you can add an all resist on there as well, and the price is going to go crazy, but potentially this chest is just amazing, like really, really, really good. Now, if you don't want to add on like all resist on there, you can add a pickup radius or whatever you want to use on your character. It's completely up to you, whatever setup you're using, but I definitely recommend going for this no matter who you are. It's just absolutely amazing, so have a look at it. Alright guys, so that completely finishes it up for the Legendary series, but we're not actually fully done with the series itself. We've discussed all the mainstream Legendaries for every single class now. Now, what this means is there's more Legendaries to talk about. They might not be potentially the best Legendaries, but there are ones that are, add a bit more variety to play, might save costs in certain areas, and they might just be a bit of fun. So what I want you guys to do is comment in the section below saying what legendaries you want to actually listen about or learn more about, and I'll look into these legendaries and we'll talk about them. Obviously, make sure you check out the rest of the guides before you actually go and comment, because I might have already spoken about legendary you're asking to listen about, which isn't. Yeah, just watch the guides. Maybe just check out the bottom bar below. On the navigation bar, and just see if there's ones you want to hear about, and if there's none you haven't heard about, we'll talk about them. So comment in the section below, and we'll do that. And now, in terms of future guides that are coming out this month, the rest of February, we have either the farming efficiency guide or the Paragon leveling my routes that I use. I haven't actually decided which one I'm going to do. And then at the end of this month, the beginning of March, we'll be discussing what is coming out in March. Now, there's a lot coming out in March. I won't talk about it too much, but we have all the 1.0.7 guides coming out, mini legendary guides, and a few other cool things like different demonic essence farming routes and things like that. So we do have a lot to look forward to. Now, in terms of the competition winners, they will be emailed tomorrow or the day after on your YouTube inbox, so watch those guys. They've been decided, and we're just getting ready to ship everything and stuff like that. So, yeah, let's... watch your inboxes, because you could have won the prizes. We have absolutely decided all the winners now, and it's funny because there was one person who guessed it exactly. There's one person who was off by 5,000 gold, and then someone else is off by 30k. So it was it was a lot tighter than I thought. I actually expected no one to guess anywhere close to it, because it was a bit of a funny figure. It was like, it had like, it was like to the 1 point over from the 0. It was really close. So yeah, it's pretty exciting to see that, and I can tell you right now, it was not exciting to go through the 1,000 comments and find the winners. That was a pain in my ass, but anyways, it's part of the competition. So we're gonna save the Firefall beta giveaway contest till next month. I just thought I'd space them out a bit more, just so there's, you know, more to give away over more time. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, guys, I'm rambling now. So thank you very, very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you did like the video. I always look forward to making more guides for you guys, and the more subscribers, the better. It's always motivates me a bit more. So yeah, guys, thank you very much. Don't forget to click one of the links on the screen if you haven't seen one of the guides there. And I will see you all on Friday to Saturday. Good luck with the competition, guys. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.